hope that you can all hear me, because the washing machine's going off. But I'm hoping that you can hear me. I just need to wipe my face. So, for those of you that don't know, I am the parent of a severely autistic child. I have 3 children in total. And I always ask myself the same question: why me? Why me? And then I have to go back and think about, why did I want to start Cry Scream Relax? So if you don't know, the whole story is that basically I was a teen mom, and then it was like there's like a 12-year age gap between my first child and then my second, which is my son who's got severe autism. And then straight after him, I had my daughter. Now I'm a single parent, and when I had my second child, I had prenatal depression and then postnatal depression. And it was, I didn't, it's very hard, because when you're going through something like that and you've got nobody to talk to who's been through that, it was a very hard time for me. And in the middle of the night, the words Cry Scream Relax popped into my head, and I woke up and I knew they meant something, but I didn't know what, and I just wrote them down and forgot about it. And I really wish that I would have documented everything from the time that my severely autistic son Cohen was born, because when I always ask myself why me, it brings me back to I know that there's somebody out there who's scrolling through the internet just like I was, who has a severely autistic child, who is a single parent, who is thinking, I need some sort of guidance, I need tips and tricks, I need to feel like I am not the only one. I am, I'm not alone, basically. I'm not alone in this. And I feel quite raw and vulnerable right now, mainly because I look terrible. I mean, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. The kids are still in bed. It's the Easter holidays. But yeah, so my kid's dad, he takes the kids on the weekend, and he brought them back last night, and Colin was already on. He was on one, and he wanted these alphabets, and so my Colin, because of his severity of his autism, he has huge fixations and obsessions. But since he was a baby, and I mean a baby, like 1.5 years old, he has been obsessed with numbers and alphabets. He knows the Russian alphabet, he knows the Ukrainian alphabet, he knows Spanish, German, French, and English numbers. He's just obsessed with numbers, he's obsessed with alphabets, he's obsessed with fonts, different fonts of alphabets, of letters, should I say. So he gets these fixations, and then it's like he can't control anything, and it's a nightmare. And I managed to get him into bed, and he was crying. He was just crying and screaming, because he kept say it's like he sits there, and then it's like it pops into his head, like, oh, remember the alphabet that you wanted? So then he'll just start crying, and I'm like, Colin, I don't know which one it is. I don't know what you want. So then I'm like, okay, let's look through, because usually he'll see something like on Etsy or something, and he's like, that's the one I want. And it has to be that one. It can't be, and he's obsessed with alphabet stickers. And, the pound shop sell like 2 for £1. And I got him some alphabet stickers, and he was like, no. And I'm like, oh, God. Now, Colin's only partially verbal, so it's very difficult to try and understand what he actually wants sometimes. And I managed to whittle it down that he wanted an alphabet train. I mean, he's got alphabet trains. He's got multiple alphabet trains, but no, this one with these colours, and he wants that one. And, it's so expensive. Like, I love gardening, and I'm like, gardening is such an expensive hobby. Having a severely autistic child is expensive. It is so expensive. And he was just going on and on and on and crying and meltdowning. And And then his foot started, he kept saying he wanted slippers on in bed. And I'm like, why? So I've got him the slippers. I'm just like, right, put the slippers on in bed. No, the slippers. Then he kept taking his sock off. Now, Cohen hates his feet out. He hates his feet out. So I must have changed his socks about 4 times. And I'm like, what is going on with this sock? I'm thinking, oh, inside the sock, the thread must be catching on something. So I said to him, let me look at your foot. Now, he never lets you look at his feet. He is absolutely petrified of nail clippers. So, I can't cut his feet like you'd cut a normal kid's feet. I have to wait till he's dead asleep. And then I have to cut a hole in the top of the sock and then peel it back and then clip, 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 clip. And then when he wakes up and realizes there's a hole in the sock, then I'll put another one on. If I think that kid is so dead asleep and I try to take his sock off, no, he will wake up instantly. It's just been like that forever. So anyway, I was like, Colin, I need to look at your foot, because like when you look at it and you think, I can see something on it. Oh my Lord. The poor child had, so on his big toenail, it was all like, it's like it had cut halfway down and then it had cut at the top. So then there was like a thread there and there, but this was like hanging off. It was like attached to the skin, but it was hanging off. So every time he's moving his foot around, it's obviously catching, but the thread had like pulled it, so it was bleeding. So I was like, I need to take it off. So I'm literally having to wrestle him. I'm sat on the edge of the bed, I've got his foot, and I'm wrestling with him. And I'm like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. I'm like, please, Cohen, please. And he's kicking me in the back with his other foot and he's wriggling around. And I'm like, I can't leave your foot like this. Like, I have to. So I've called my 7-year-old daughter in and I'm like, get me the nail clippers. I've called my oldest son in and I'm like, hold him down. And, in the moment, you're just doing everything that you possibly can to make him better. And he don't understand that. And he's screaming. And when he screams, it's like, it's like a bloody deathly siren. It's so high pitched. And he's just screaming and screaming and crying. And I'm saying to my son, just hold him down. And I managed to clip it. And I said, go get a plaster. And I put a plaster around it. And I was like, it's okay now. And then he stopped because he realised like the pain had gone, it's okay. And he calmed down. But then that triggered up the alphabets again. So then he started screaming and crying over the alphabets. But how we were laying on the bed, he was laying straight and then he'd roll into me and he'd put his arm around me and then he'd cry and I'd be like, it's okay. And then he'd come away from me and then he'd be okay. And then he'd burst into tears and then he'd put his arm in and he'd be like, oh. And I'm like, sometimes like you go past the point of being crying because I've gone, I'm crying with him because I don't know how to help him, and it's like, he's like, let's go. And I'm like, we can't go anywhere. It's nighttime. There's no shops open to go anywhere, which, he doesn't understand. And last night I was so numb that I couldn't cry. I was just numb. I was like, hugging him and then just numb and then hugging him. And I was just numb because I'm just like, it's awful. It's just awful. And that's just one example. I mean, this is the start of the holidays for me. And yeah, it's just the start of the holidays and I'm just already exhausted. And it's such a conflict because I actually hate the school system. I hate that my kids are away from me. I hate, I genuinely enjoy the time with my kids being at home. I'm not like, oh, they need to go back to school. I'm quite happy to be at home with the kids, but at the same time, it's so hard when you are a single parent. It's so hard to navigate everything by yourself. But yeah, I don't even know. I just wanted to share that in case there was anyone out there that's going through the same thing and you're thinking, what the fuck is going on and why me? Because that's the question. But behind me is my gratitude tree. So Cohen doesn't like when things change. So the tree has always stayed up, and then we just decorate the tree accordingly to whatever time of the year it is. So in the beginning of the year, we have gratitude cards, and we put gratitude cards. There's some gratitude and sort of affirmation cards on it. And when as soon as I came down and sat down, this one was turned that way, and as I turned it around, I don't know if you can see it. It says always look on the bright side. I hope you can see that. I don't know if the light's too bright. Always look on the bright side. And I just thought, there's always a sign and symbol somewhere guiding you. And I think that's what it is. Always look on the bright side, because back to the question of why me, it takes a very special person to look after autistic kids. It really does. And sometimes I see parents that have severely autistic kids and they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. They really don't. And I'm not saying that I'm some sort of expert, but I understand children, just any child. I understand. I just get it. I've worked as a teacher within dance, within the schooling system myself. I've worked within youth clubs, and I get kids. I feel like I just get it. And having a severely autistic child puts everything into a whole new perspective. And you know, it's you've got to be so calm, you've got to be so patient, you've got to be so resilient to be the parent of a severely autistic child who can barely communicate, who doesn't understand the world like we do, who, you know, and I could tell in those moments that he was hugging me, that he was trying to regulate himself. He was trying so hard to understand, and he needed comfort in that time, and I was trying my best to comfort him. But yeah, it's this it's that numbness of feeling hopeless and helpless. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that for anybody out there that is going through the same thing and thinking, God, I just need some 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 reassurance to know that I'm not alone. You're not alone. There's thousands upon thousands of parents that have severely autistic children that are doing it alone. Um, and you know, I'm going to try and document as much as I can this week. Sometimes it's very difficult. I don't, I'm not a type of person who can walk around with my phone just stuck to my hip all the time. And I know to be a content creator, that's what you've got to do. And I do find that very difficult, because I spoke to my friend who's a content creator about that before. It is very difficult to just constantly have a phone or a camera ready. And I, you know, in the midst of him having a meltdown, there's no way I could have just been like, oh, excuse me, I need to just go get my camera and document this. Like, that's not happening. But the aftermath of, you know, now in the morning I can come down, just grab a coffee, sit here in silence while the kids are asleep, and just kind of reflect on the day. So yeah, now I will get on with what I usually do in the morning, which is get me coffee, get something to eat, get my my journal manifestation book, and I'll do some of that. And then we'll see what the weather's like today. Probably raining, because that's all it ever does in the UK. And yeah, try and start the day, but try and always look on the bright side.